The hunter leaned forward in his creaking chair, his weathered hands trembling as they gripped the edges of the wooden table. The single lantern hanging from the ceiling cast long dancing shadows across the small, cramped cabin. The smell of damp wood and old tobacco clung to the air, as if time itself had stopped breathing. "You want to know about the Gowrow," he said, his voice low and raspy, more a growl than a whisper. "You ever see hell up close? 'Cause I have." The man's name was Elias Mercer, and he'd lived alone in the Ozark backwoods for longer than anyone cared to remember. He was a hunter by trade, the type of man who could track a cougar across frozen ground with nothing but instinct and a dull blade. But tonight his hardened demeanor was cracking. His eyes darted to the darkened windows, as if expecting the night to reach in and pull him out. "I don't care if you believe me. Hell, I'd be better off if you didn't. But I'll tell you, because maybe, just maybe, it'll save someone else." He took a deep breath, his gaze fixed on the lantern's weak flame. It was late October, 3 years ago, he began. The kind of cold that gets under your skin and makes your bones ache. I'd been tracking a black bear that had been tearing through farmers' livestock near Big Creek. Spent 3 days following its trail through the underbrush, up steep ravines and down into hollers where the sun don't shine. I figured I'd finish the job before the first snowfall. He paused, his knuckles whitening against the table. But that's when I found the cave. The words seemed to linger in the room like a foul stench. I wasn't looking for it, mind you. The bear had veered off the trail and vanished like it had been swallowed by the earth. I was about to turn back when I saw it, a gaping hole in the side of a limestone ridge, half hidden by moss and brambles. Something about it felt wrong, like the forest itself was trying to cover it up. Elias rubbed his face as though trying to wipe away the memory. "Now, I've seen caves before, plenty of them. But this one, it was too perfect, too round. Like something had clawed its way out rather than in. I should have left right then and there, but I was stubborn. Thought maybe the bear had holed up inside." He chuckled bitterly. "Damn fool." I lit a torch and stepped inside. The air was thick, heavy with the stink of rot and wet stone. The walls weren't natural, they were carved. Deep grooves ran along the rock, like claw marks as wide as my forearm. And the deeper I went, the worse it got. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I found bones, not just animal bones. Oh, there were plenty of those, but human ones, too. Skulls with jagged holes punched through them, rib cages snapped like twigs. They were piled up in corners, half buried under decades of dirt and decay." Elias swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing like it might choke him. I should have turned back. God help me, I should have run. But curiosity's a damn curse, ain't it? I pressed on deeper into the dark. It wasn't long before I heard it, a scraping sound, like stone on stone. It echoed through the cave, distant but growing louder. I froze, my heart pounding so hard I thought it'd burst. Then came the smell, worse than death, like meat left to rot in the sun for weeks. He shuddered, his breath hitching. That's when I saw it. The lantern's flame flickered, as if responding to his words. Elias's eyes glistened with raw terror. It was coiled up in the center of a massive chamber surrounded by more bones than I could count. Its skin was black and slick, glistening like oil. Its eyes glowed a sickly yellow, slitted like a snake's, but with a hateful, hungry intelligence, the Gowrow. He spat the word like poison. It was massive, 30 feet, maybe more. Its body was thick and muscular, covered in jagged scales that looked harder than steel. And its jaws, Lord, its jaws were full of teeth as long as my hand, dripping with saliva that sizzled when it hit the ground. Elias shook his head, his face pale as a corpse. It didn't just see me, it knew me, like it could see right into my soul, and when it moved, he slammed his fist on the table, making the lantern sway. It was fast, too fast for something that size. I didn't think, I just ran. My torch went out, but I didn't care. I scrambled through the dark, tripping over rocks and bones, feeling that thing closing in behind me. Its breath was hot on my neck, reeking of blood and bile. He paused, his voice trembling. I swear I could hear it laughing. Not like a human laugh, but this deep, guttural rumble that shook the ground. Elias leaned back, staring at the ceiling as if reliving the nightmare. I don't know how I made it out. The cave entrance was just there, like a light at the end of the tunnel. I dove out, rolling down the ridge and landing hard on my shoulder. When I looked back, it was watching me, standing just inside the cave, its eyes glowing like twin lanterns in the dark. He exhaled shakily. It didn't follow me. Maybe it couldn't leave the cave, or maybe it didn't need to. It knew I'd never come back. Elias fell silent for a long moment, the room filled only with the sound of the creaking chair and the faint chirping of crickets outside. I tried to warn folks, but no one believed me. They said I was drunk or crazy or just trying to scare people. But the livestock kept disappearing. Then hunters started vanishing too. Every time I hear about someone going missing in these woods, I know where they've gone, and I know they ain't coming back. He leaned forward again, his eyes burning with a desperate intensity. You listen to me, boy. If you're ever near Big Creek and you find a cave that don't feel right, you turn around. You run. Don't look back. Elias's voice dropped to a whisper, barely audible over the crackling lantern. Because the Gowrow's still there, waiting, and it's always hungry. Thank you for tuning in. Please leave a like and subscribe. I will see you again next week.